The more stressed we are, the more mired we are, the more we're money's bitch, meaning the powers that be that want to keep us enslaved and living their dream. We are now the most self-aware and the least collectively aware species that ever existed on this planet. Everything in nature is wildly uninterested in that which does not bring it more life. And it is wildly interested in that which does. Any change, any sense of I'm going to consciously destabilize myself into something else is very counterintuitive. But it's necessary for the healing path. And it's necessary to actually live a spiritually engaged life.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my podcast, Guy, of course. Today I have the incredible special guest lined up for you in Jonathan Hammond, who returns back to the show. I definitely recommend his last podcast I did as well, quite a few years ago. But anyway, he's a true expert in counseling, shamanic practices, and energy healing. And we dive deep into the powerful connection between personal healing and nature and explore how modern spirituality often misses the mark and uncover the ancient wisdoms that guide us back to our true selves, which is what we're all about here on Let It In podcast. Anyway, Jonathan also shares profound insights on breaking free from societal illusions, the transformative power of faith, which has been huge in my own journey as well, and how each of us can contribute to healing our planet and in turn heal ourselves. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to let me know in the comments below. If you enjoy the podcast, hit the subscribe, hit the thumbs up, share it with a loved one or friend. I feel these conversations are more important than ever, and this helps me allow to grow my podcast so I can reach more people, so more people can hear these insightful conversations. That's the game anyway, right? We have one retreat left here in northern New South Wales, Byron Bay Shire of Australia in September 2024 this year. If you're in Australia, come and join us, or even if you want to travel to Australia, come and join us. I promise you, you won't regret it. It's the last retreat of the year in Australia, and we're also running one in Croatia in October in Europe. I'm literally just back from Bali, finding my feet in the ground and loving life. Anyway, much love from me. I hope to meet you in person one day soon, give you a hug. Enjoy. Wonderful. Jonathan, welcome back to the podcast.
Aloha from Maui. Hi, Guy. It's great to be here.
I know I keep staring at your turtle in the background on your picture, actually. It's almost like the one I got needs a turtle in the middle of it, behind mine.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's a daily occurrence. It's a daily occurrence out here to swim with them and to see them. And during whale season, you can see them breach from your car. It's pretty magical. Yeah.
There's definitely worse places in the world you could be living right now, Jonathan. That's for
sure. Sure.
My first question to you is, mate, I know we've been on the podcast before, but it was many years ago, and there's a lot of water gone under the bridge since then. Yeah. And I have no doubt many people listening today, especially people listening to my podcast, will be new to you. So if you were at an intimate dinner party and the person next to you asked you, what do you do for a living and what are you most passionate about? How would you respond?
I think I'm a consciousness holder. I think that's what I do. I work with people one-on-one, and I do spiritual counseling and shamanic work and energy healing and all of those things. But I think that I'm kind of a hardcore full-time mystic, and I have the opportunity to have a lot of space in my life to really contemplate things and to bring healing and insight to the world's problems as well as individual problems. I don't call myself a shaman. That's not a word that I need to use. It doesn't matter to me. You call me anything you want. I think I'm a healer. So that's what I do, and I'm very compassionate about our ecology and about how we can bring our own healing and our own worldview and our own outlook and our own psychology into alignment with the natural world. Not only because the natural world has a lot to teach us about how to be, but by being like the natural world, we rejoin the natural world.
Yeah, like the disconnection. It's funny, our workshops are called Reconnected, and we talk about reconnection to self, reconnection to others, reconnection to nature, reconnection to spirit.
and a re-enchantment with nature,
Oh,
I think we've pulled so far away, even in our contemporary spirituality. I feel like we pulled so far away to off-planet consciousness, and I don't know where we're going because we live here. And I think that there is a way to recontextualize sacredness, immanent sacredness here on this earth, and that our spiritual processes are not so much about higher dimensions and activate your pineal gland and this will happen and all of that. It's about being in lived relationship, in creative engagement with our lives, with the natural world. And that feels really important. And it feels like something that even in a lot of contemporary spirituality is missing, because we keep going higher and higher and higher. And I think part of the reason why we are in the problems we're in, both ecologically and otherwise, is because we are geared towards being off planet, towards the mental, and not towards the embodied and the physical and the lived.
I'm so happy you said that, mate. It's like I always think of the image of the tree, and the more we focus on the roots and the deepening and the connection to here and the now and the grounded, that's where I believe we hear to experience this physical reality, and we spend half our time running away from it.
Right.
But naturally, the deeper we go, the roots, naturally the branches will elevate higher in their own time, and that will be a byproduct of that anyway.
There's a Native American idea called the original instructions. And what I love about this idea is that it applies to humans and to everything in the natural world, of which we are also part of the natural world. We are animals as well. And the original instructions are essentially that wired into us, gifted to us by the mother, and gifted to everything by the mother, are instructions that are agentive and that are leading towards a purpose, and that everything in nature wants to grow beyond its current circumstances. It wants to evolve. It has a teleology. It wants to get somewhere, and everything in nature, by virtue of it existing, follows that. And it's only humans, and we have it too, but it's only humans who don't listen to that instinctual wisdom towards life, towards growth, towards evolution, towards purpose. We have this funny thing that we do that where we override that, and it's a felt sense in all of us. And those original instructions are, if we can let go and heal into them, they automatically put us in attunement with ourselves and with purpose. Just like everything in nature, just by virtue of being itself, is following its purpose, and at the same time connected to the all. And so there's something very basic about that we're gifted with, even fated with, which is a word that doesn't get a lot of airplay in spiritual circles. But the idea of fate, that I was given these circumstances, this body, this sexuality, this that family, and that those were all part of the design of my original instructions, and that if I can align with them and follow them and make them healthy, then I become an agentive being, just like everything in nature, and everything in nature is collaborating to bring life, to continue life on the planet.
How have we got into such a disconnection from that? Because I'm in front of people every month, Jonathan, and most people don't trust it. They don't feel into it. They're living in their heads.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like you only have to look to the indigenous and ancient practice and the shamanic practices. And this was just part of their natural being on a daily basis.
Right.
And it's almost like we've discredited in Western society and gone very egoic, and it's all mental.
Yeah.
Where have we gone wrong, do you think?
Well, before, when we were doing it right, and this is from the anthropological data about hunter-gatherer cultures, they knew that they had a separate self, and they knew that they were also equally connected to the all. They held both those ontologies, or those ways of looking at the world. They could hold both, and we pulled away from that, and so the culprit is really culture, human culture versus the natural world. And human culture is all the things we're supposed to be, all the things that we're supposed to believe, all the paradigms of rules and dogma and conventional ways of being that we're supposed to fit into. We even have a part of the psyche that Freud identified called the superego, which is the part of us that assimilates with the culture. And he named 3 parts of the psyche, and one of them just assimilates with the culture. All you have to do is turn on the television to see what the culture is that we're assimilating to, and how we pulled away. We've given that more clout and legitimacy than organic reality. And so it's been, and this is in our religions. Genesis, in the first chapter of Genesis, is about dominion over the earth, and that we humans are the peak identity. We get to be the geological agents. We are the top of the food chain, and everything else is just background, a storehouse of materials for us. And that began this very inorganic and essentially hierarchical domination over the earth. And because that's embedded in our psychology, we do it to each other. And because we do it, and we do it to the earth, which is a birthing agent, we have certainly done it to the feminine, to women. And so it really comes from that. It's been going on. It's not just religion. It's even the classical philosophers talked about that the only kind of soul that required any moral consequence was the rational human soul. And these background, these philosophers are the background of how we think in the West. And so it's been going on for a long time. This disconnection from our feelings, from our body, from our pleasure, and adherence to a hierarchical structure where we send our energy and our soul and our spirit up to them. And we're expected to give our soul and our spirit and work with our soul and our spirit for someone else's dream. And that is called being part of civilized society. And it's really sick. It's really sick. And it's and make no mistake, the architects of reality who put that structure into place, they knew what they were doing, and they are sociopathic. They are, I won't even call them narcissists. They are sociopathic because they've even created religious paradigms that says it is healthy, or it is holy to do that, to leave yourself for some idea of someone else. And that whole paradigm of the one God that has been adopted by humans as the one peak human identity that we are all supposed to worship. And we all are supposed to fall in line from there. And yet the natural world shows us that the best ecological advantages come from diversity, come from cooperation. The Darwinian idea of survival of the fittest has largely been dislodged as real. What contemporary ecology is seeing is much more about cooperation and empathic connection, and plant species feeding other plant species that are different from them because they might be in the shade and I'm in the sun. All kinds of cooperative things going on in the natural world, and that's more what nature is supposed to be teaching us and what we're supposed to be learning from nature and participating in, for goodness sake. And the culture has a whole different idea about what that is. And it's about, I'm over here and you're over there. And we are now the most self-aware and the least collectively aware species that ever existed on this planet. And nature will, if we just reconnect, nature will show us that we can be both. I get to like my stuff. I get to be attached to whatever I'm attached to, but I am also collectively aware of the all, that I am part of that. And what I do affects that and either contributes positively or negatively towards that. But the idea that I'm not, and the idea that I shouldn't care, is what's wrong with the culture and what's wrong with our adherence to it. And so we got to get that superego that adheres to all that stuff out of there enough to where we can come into an embodied, lived existence with the world.
Thank you for sharing all that. That's in my mind right now. That's a highlights reel, what you've just said. It's that important and so well articulated. Thank you, Jonathan. I
Sure.
couldn't agree more. And it makes me ponder on my life when culture had such an imprint on me. But the challenge was, Jonathan, growing up in the valleys of Wales,
Hmm.
that was all I knew. But I knew something wasn't right. So the
Hmm.
culture of the schooling system, the culture of the way people, the amount of alcohol drank, and the tribalism around rugby and
Hmm.
life, get it, like it's like, and even at a young age, I felt like I never fitted in. But what came then, like I felt like a brave soul, because I said I'm not going to settle for this. But it was such an extreme pressure,
Yeah.
and I feel at some level we all feel that, it's wanting to keep us in this unconsciously there.
Well,
So
I'm
I
envious
went
of you.
through
Yeah, I'm envious of you
you
because
know
I bought it. I bought it. I bought it. The idea that you were questioning it at a young age is just a testament to who you are. But I this wasn't on my radar, So and I think that's why you're doing what you're doing, because there was something about you that was feeling like this isn't quite right. And throughout my life, in all my previous false lives to this one, which are all necessary, they're all okay. It was feeling, this doesn't feel exactly right. I'm following the rules. I'm doing the right thing. I'm succeeding in ways that I was taught to were the way. And every time I would have one of those trophies, I would go, I don't want this trophy. I don't give a shit, and and so I really had to undo what what success is, what manhood is, for goodness sake, what life is about, what the even the legitimization of my own pleasure as opposed to my own ability to cope and people please and suffer, all of which are taught to us by the culture as okay. And we need to question that stuff. We need to question that stuff because we yes, there's suffering in nature, but nature doesn't like it when that happens, and it avoids it at all costs. And it certainly doesn't sign up for a life of it.
yeah. When you look at culture and you look at these systems
Yeah.
and that are in place, everything looks so big and powerful.
Mhm.
And you think, it's so easy to go, I'm just a cog in a wheel, and I can't do anything change. And I think we get caught up in our own
Mhm.
pain, our own belief systems, and like we settle for something far less, like you said, and we disconnect from all those intuitive feelings and connections. And faith is something that you raised as well earlier, which is
Mhm.
hugely important in my life. Where do we start? Do we start on healing ourselves? Do we start on healing with the planet? Is it a collaborative approach? When people come to see you and they're in pain
Mhm.
or needing guidance,
Mhm.
what are the general themes that you find to help people feel empowered to then start to actually feel like they could be not only making a difference in their own personal life, but then to the people around them and to the planet that we inhabit?
Well, when you start talking cosmology, it can feel overwhelming. You start talking about the environment, it can feel like I'm just a little nothing. You can't care about the plastic in the ocean if you have a tack in your foot. So we got to get the tack in your foot out. That is the personal healing. You can't be of service to the collective in any sort of way unless you're well. So yes, of course, you are whatever you heal in you is automatically, because we are connected to the all, because there is only one mind. Even the Gaia theory talks about that the entire Earth and the biosphere around it acts like one organism, and so we are all each individual cells in that organism, and curating health in our own cell contributes to the organism. So if you want to care about the ecology, it's not about becoming an activist or joining Greenpeace or something. It's about taking care of yourself. It's about being well. It's about uh, working on yourself enough that you are not spilling your stuff into someone else's experience, that you are self-regulating, that you are taking responsibility for your life, that you're taking responsibility for your own healing, that you recognize your own pain and work with whoever or whatever to get out of it, because all of that stuff is obscuring those original instructions, because the original instructions, if followed, will not only give you your true self, but will give you your true self in collaboration with the all. So the ecological is nothing. You can be ecological without ever leaving your house, if nature isn't your thing, just by virtue of really taking care of yourself and healing yourself. And the last thing I'll say is that I think that that there are two kinds of people on our side. There are two kinds of people. There are the people who are tuned into what we should do, and there are people who are tuned into what we can do. And I think we need both. And I think the people that are tuned into what we can do need to listen to the people who are tuned into what we should do. And so our influence in our wellness, in our care, attracts other people who maybe are of a different echelon of power, maybe do have political sway, maybe do in some way are rubbing elbows with the architects of reality. And so we're all needed. I often say with my clients who are in corporate structures, I say, you kind of go into the Death Star dressed as a stormtrooper 5 days a week, but underneath you're giving Earth wisdom in disguise. And that's what we have to do. That's what we have to do.
Yeah. It's so tempting sometimes to run away from it. And like I've often thought about it, just like, I'm just going to get a little farmland. I'm just going to grow some veggies and just keep my life very simple.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel a great sense of contribution, and it fills me in such a way when I go into major cities and major places and run these workshops and feel like I'm getting in the dirt and starting to make people aware of what's possible. And I feel we can all have that opportunity, as opposed to just run away from everything, that we can face up to it and actually contribute it.
Totally. I heard something great. I wish I had thought of it, but I didn't. Someone was talking about changing consciousness towards ecology, towards interconnection. And he talked about creating pockets of sanity. And so I think your impulse to go and have a little bit of land where you get to live by rules that are in attunement and aligned and loving and empathic makes a lot of sense. And I think we can all individually create our own pockets of sanity. And if enough people are doing that, something else might take hold.
Yes, absolutely. So you've clearly created a pocket of sanity for you where you're living. And
Right.
I'm curious, do you mind sharing a little bit about your experience and what were the defining moments for you, Jonathan? Like, because you said you'd fully bought into culture and you'd lived that life and felt like you lived many lives, and now you do what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you had to articulate, what would have been the defining kind of moments or things coming to your awareness that just went right?
I mean, I have so many, and I think we all do. And I think we don't give them enough clout. I have so many peak experiences that say there's something else going on. So many spiritual experiences, even the idea of the grace that comes when healing happens in me, when I really am able to let go of something and enter into a new way of being. That's grace. That is miraculous. And I've been on that path my whole life. I remember when I was about 20 years old, I was walking in an airport, the bookstores in the airport. And and I always went to the self-help section. It was the only kind of book I ever read in my entire life. And one of the books, I don't know whatever became of the book, the title was Feeling Good. And I thought, that sounds like an idea that I can't even imagine what that 20 years old, like, what is that like? And it opened something up in me. And I've been trying to do that for my whole life. So, and doing fairly well at succeeding at it. I think the big thing lately was the Lahaina fires. So I lived 20 miles from one of the biggest ecological disasters that has ever occurred.
Wow.
And it opened something up in me. The biggest thing that it opened up was that the next day, when you look at the media, the culture, it was all stories of the Chinese laser beam that did this, and the government conspiracies and the aliens, and no one was talking about that this was fire and air and a little bit of human error and extreme weather, the likes of which this island has never seen, that could not survive, and that its infrastructure could not survive. No one wanted to have that conversation. Everyone wanted to point their fingers at something other than that. And that was something that ripped my heart out, but opened something up in me that said, and P.S., Lahaina was at one point the capital of Hawaii, of the Hawaiian kingdom. And it was known as the Venice of Hawaii. We had all these natural waterways. All the water had since been diverted for sugarcane production 150 years ago. So it was dry as a bone, because we did not follow the traditional ecological knowledge of the indigenous people when the colonizers decided to do that. And so it was set up to go. And I mean the whole town, with soup to nuts. The whole time, you drive 10 minutes, you're still passing burn. And the mother kind of said to me, I know what I'm doing. And I have taken all of the aloha, all of the culture that is behind glass in the museums in Lahaina, and I am unleashing it, and I am transmuting it, and I am making it alive again into something else. And then 6 months later, it turns out that ecological disaster has actually moved the needle on indigenous rights. And there's all kinds of legislation, because all these people, these local people, are displaced, and there are all these rich people and corporate interests and offshore owners of properties that don't even live here, who are, and the indigenous people are getting a voice. There's going to be litigation. There's going to be, it's going to be a bit of a shit show. But you never hear about the indigenous people even coming close to winning, and that's happening. And that is the mother trying to get through to us. And so that was really formative in terms of where I wanted. And that wasn't that long ago. It was only last August. But that was really formative in terms of where I think I can be of benefit, and how I want people to start thinking in terms of a relationship with our home.
How do we, I know, keeping the conversation in this direction.
Yeah.
And the question seems so simplistic, but
yeah,
there's got to be more to it.
Mm-hmm.
How do we develop that relationship with our home?
Imagination. When you think of all the research, all the latest research about nature, is that everything is not only alive. We know that, but we forget it. It's alive, it's sentient, it's agentive, it has feelings. Plants have all the same senses that we do. They are actually looking back at us too, as are the birds, as are everything. They are not the props or the scenery for our human drama. They are us. They are in relationship with us. We are genetically connected to your cat and your houseplant. We are that similar. And because everything has a consciousness, that means that everything is able to be communicated with. Now, it's not necessarily a conversation like we're having, but you can enter imaginatively into it. Hello, the shamanic journey. That's what a shamanic journey has always been, that I am merging my mind with the consciousness of something in nature. That's been going on for thousands of years. That's how they lived. That's how they knew how to live and to be safe. And so when you think of biodiversity, I love that idea, but I love the idea of psychodiversity, that everything in nature are transmitting all these different consciousnesses that are a part of us, in much the same way that when we connect with spirit guides, that's another non-human consciousness that we're connecting with. This place is enchanted, and it's filled with consciousness and when they start dying, we lose that consciousness, and we don't know if we need it or not. But if the mother put it there, she put it there for a reason. And so it's about that. It's about that conversation. And really you enter it through imagination. You enter it with a sense of humility and kinship and connection and care and curiosity, for goodness sake, and something will emerge. I'll often state that if you think of, if a walk in the forest is about, the forest is going to give me a message about this question that I have. If that's your reality that you enter the forest with, the forest will start talking. If you don't have that reality, it's a forest that you walk through. But the one that I'm suggesting, the first one, is an animistic orientation that has been going on since the beginning of Homo sapiens. 99% of yours and my ancestors practiced that lived relationship with the natural world. 99%. It's only been relatively recently that we got all weird. And that was considered primitive by the West, by the European West. That's a primitive consciousness. You don't know the difference between yourself and the other. You're an idiot. And it's like, no, I recognize that, but I also recognize that I'm part of it, as are you. And that is, we used to think that way. And I think we have to teach children that the teddy bear doesn't have sentience, because that's where they would automatically go. I've even heard animism as our natural state, our natural state, our natural healthy state. And that we have to really do a whole bunch of jumping through hoops, mental hoops, and separate hoops and mean hoops to not make that connection. And that's what we've forgotten, and that's why the planet's so sick.
Yeah. And then you combine the fact that we don't even give ourselves permission to slow down and create space in our life, because we're in this hamster wheel, and we're not even giving ourselves that opportunity just to breathe out and actually start to lean into our imagination, lean into play, and lean into that curiosity, and start to become more aware and get our feet in the earth or the sand.
Yeah, and I think that's by design. That's by design. The more stressed we are, the more mired we are, the more we're money's bitch, which is what everyone wants us to be, meaning the powers that be that want to keep us enslaved and living their dream. The less time we have for this kind of connection, the only kind of connection that really matters, which is looking at each other in the eyes with love and care and curiosity.
It's wild, mate, because once you experience this, and kind of, it's like somebody whacks you over the head and all of a sudden you see clearly, and then for me anyway, you can't undo that. And I truly feel as well, and I'd be interested to hear your perspective on this, but obviously I podcast a lot, and I kind of keep one eye on the conversations that are going out there, and potential speakers to bring on and things like that. And there's clearly a conversation that's happening that we like, Earth's consciousness is shifting. We're moving into 5D reality. Everything is starting to change. We're in this precipice of time. More and more people are waking up, or more and more people are digging their heels in deeper. I mean, what are your thoughts around this at this time at the moment? Because I do get optimistic. I maybe it's in my nature, but I'd love to hear your views on it.
Well, I love the idea of 5D reality, but I want to just put some meat on its bones. What that is really getting at is that 3D reality is just me, you, and the eye that sees both. It's binary. That's what 3D reality is. That I'm over here, you're over there, and there's a separation between us. 5D reality is about that's happening, and yet there is a bigger story that can hold it all, that there is a myth that surrounds it all, that it is all happening for a purpose that is leading toward evolution. And so 5D reality means that I can live right along that guy who I don't like very much and I don't trust very much. And I can curate my own reality and live alongside him and connect myself to something. I know why he exists. That's part of 5D. I know why he exists, but that I'm holding a bigger perspective. And that's how we can live alongside the things that we don't resonate with and not be infected by them. Because we're holding a bigger perspective. I'm not just in that 3D reality where I don't trust you, you don't trust me, et cetera, et cetera. You know, I'm not playing in that. I'm aware of it. But I'm actually I'm going here. I'm going here. And I think anyone who's a genuine seeker, certainly anyone who's watching this podcast, it's like the best we can do is give people something to emulate that is something like, what's that guy having over there? Because they seem happier. You know, they seem less tortured. They seem like they're directing their life toward love. And over here, I'm just watching CNN and everyone fighting and being neurotic and all of that, you know. And that's what 5D is. 5D is that we can live alongside it, but we have to direct our consciousness towards what it is that we want to create while the other thing is going on. And it's going on. But I'm not interested. And everything in nature is wildly uninterested in that which does not bring it more life. And it is wildly interested in that which does.
It doesn't take long before we just need to turn back to nature for answers, does it? That's what it feels like every single time.
It's all there. It's all there. If I thought that there was some other system, dogma, rule to follow, I'd buy it. But that's the one that makes the most sense because it's right there. It's right there. It's there to teach us. You know, there's a famous Cherokee story about that the animals go to the animal people go to the stone people and the plant people, and they said, we're going to kill the humans because they're the fucking assholes. And we have the ability to do that. We're going to kill them. And the plant and the stone people who are older and who have less egos say, I understand why you feel this way. That is not in accordance with Great Mother. So instead, what we will do is that we will provide a medicine for any of the young humans who ask, and we will provide them with medicine through our existence that they can take for themselves. And that's what we can do. And we can't kill them. We can only give them the medicine of our existence and hope that they take it.
It feels like, just to recap everything you shared, ultimately, at the end of the day, if we keep pushing against what's wrong with everything, we're just going to get more of that. Like there's a manifestation in our reality. What we fixate on comes to light. And if I'm aware of it, I know it's going on, but this is the world I want to see. This is how I want it to represent it. And I want to embody that. And I'm going to live it from here, the heart, from my space, and know then that's going to start to influence. And then if enough people start doing that, that will become our reality.
And it's not avoidance. It's not. I'm aware of it. We're aware of the things that we don't like. It's not avoidance, and it's not transcendence. It's focus on something else. It's attention on something else. It actually requires a kind of discipline, even. You know, I was on a podcast the other day, and the host said, "What do you do with that altar back there? And what is that about? What do you do with it?" And I said, not much, except that every time I look at it, it reminds me of a reality that I want to choose today. That's what I do with that altar.
Yeah. The one thing it's done for me, Jonathan, I just want to raise, because I can just feel people, when they listen, like, if I fixate on everything that's wrong, then I actually feel helpless. Yeah. I feel like it creates overwhelm. It makes me anxious. And it's almost, you get to a point, it's stressful. Yeah. And then I think, well, I'm not going to be no use to anyone, including my family or anything, if I get caught up and churn in that place. But if I move into what can I do to make a difference, then I feel empowered. I feel like I'm moving forward, and it fills me up in a way that is incomparable when I think about those moments. Hence why I podcast, hence why I do what I do, and go out there, and it becomes very rewarding. And I just encourage everyone who's listening to ponder on that and start to really embrace those aspects.
I provide a philosophy about why, but you're right. It really is simple. It's simple. It's just feed your potential and starve your doubt. Feed your love and starve your fear. Feed that which is life affirming and starve that which isn't, individually with yourself. It's actually very simple. You don't have to solve the climate crisis. You don't have to solve the political crisis. You don't have. All you have to do is just contribute from your little cell to the one consciousness, goodness, health, and the consciousness. Because we're connected to the one mind, the one consciousness, the spiritual biosphere that surrounds the planet, we are contributing to it, and just by living well and living in accordance with your own sense of love and compassion and empathy and care and growth and creation. It's very simple.
I want to ask you this, like, as we come towards the back end of the podcast, sure. Probably a great direction to kind of take things in to finish. But what I found, Jonathan, on my journey is that the more I've gone inward and healed my traumas, my wounds, my belief systems, I don't know, whatever terminology there is, and created a more coherent being within me. I always visualize like every single cell becoming in harmony, all pointing in the same direction to the collective of myself and part of that. And it's like the more I've done that, the more clearly I can see without the shit filtering my lens. Basically, that's allowing me then to stop pushing up against that. And I'd love to hear your perspectives, and especially with your shamanic background as well, about those wounds, those things that are there to potentially teach us something, to learn something about ourselves, to be able to move in these directions that we speak of.
Well, what you're experiencing is a dynamic that I only understand because it happens every time, which is that when we heal, we become healers. We all want to pay it forward. People say, who are the people in your practice? They're all healers, because on some level, when they get better, they recognize that they want to pay it forward, that they want to contribute to the collective too, because they felt the ecstasy of the healing, even though the healing may have been a real slog, may have been years of undoing, and it's a slog. It's a slog. But the embedded in the original instructions are empathic service to the whole. That's what's embedded there. And so when we remove that which obscures that starts to take hold. So anyone who's ever had any healing, they always want to pay it forward. That's just what happens. So I'm not surprised that you're a podcaster and a healer and a group facilitator and all of that, because you're on the healing path, and healing is a thing, like it's real, like it happens. And when it does, we always want to pay it forward. It's a very weird dynamic. And it actually happened to me. I was in a whole other life. But I was, as I healed, I was so enamored by what I was experiencing, and it felt so much more important than what I was doing, because I was becoming more free and more liberated within my own mind, and releasing that which blocks me from my own life and pleasure and all of that. And I just wanted to be in those energies all the time. And I think that's what healers are. They're in the energies all the time, even if they're just going to a movie. On some level, I'm going to a movie because it's in service to, yeah.
Just to give people context, Jonathan, what were you doing?
I was an actor. I was a Broadway actor for the first 38 years of my life. And that I used to worry when I became a spiritual teacher. I used to worry, people are going to think I'm putting something on because I used to be an actor. I now know that it's much of the same skill set. When you think of like an actor, you read a script and you go, what kind of person would say that? And you empathize with it and become it from the inside. And that's what I'm doing with clients. What kind of person would say that? I empathize with it, become it from the inside with my wisdom, and then I can judge it and make it better. So it's very much the same skill set. It's also about, when you think of acting from a point of view of artistry, it's about, you know, the lines and the blocking and the structure, and then you want the inspiration to come through. And that's very much what I'm doing now, is that I have my wisdom, I have taking my courses, know my thing, and then the inspiration comes through. So it's very much that. But my parents saw that I was so imaginative and such a mimic that they kind of put in my head actor, and that kind of seemed right, because there was no template for what this for whatever the hell this is. And so that's what I followed. And then I remember opening night on Broadway, my first Broadway show, playing Harry Houdini in Ragtime, where I come in from above the proscenium arch, upside down in a straitjacket to do a trick, and it's my big entrance, and I'm going, I fucking hate this. What am I doing? I don't like this. I don't like any part. This is supposed to be the pinnacle of my life, and I can't. I'm so uncomfortable. This is not it. This is not, and that was, with $250,000 of student loans in drama school. It's a very scary thought to have when you reach the pinnacle and you go, what was I thinking? So it was that. So that was my previous life. And I had always done healing work during that career, but it was in the closet because I didn't want it yet, because I was an actor. I didn't want anyone to know, but I always had clients, never advertised, never, I don't even know how they found me, but I always had clients, my little 5th floor walk up in Manhattan. But something just sort of took hold, and I had to really face, I don't want to do this. It's not it. It doesn't have a big enough reach for me, which is weird given the fact that it's acting, it's public and all that. It wasn't, I was never a fame driven actor. It was never about that. It was about the artistry. It was about telling stories. It was about, raising consciousness. Wow. And I just couldn't do that to the extent that I wanted to.
And then was it hard to walk away, or was you just like, no, I'm ready, I'm moving on, and then you just come out of the closet with the work you're doing and life's rosy, or was it a real transition?
No, it was like, who am I on Facebook? What am I? It was identity crisis. I think we all have to face identity crises. I think particularly when we are unplugging from, when I say culture, it's also family culture, family expectations, all that stuff. And when we unplug from that, sometimes there is a bit of an identity crisis. And I think that's healthy, and that needs to be worked through with someone who can help you work through it, who've done that, who've been on that path. Because any change, any sense of I'm going to consciously destabilize myself into something else is very counterintuitive, but it's necessary for the healing path, and it's necessary to actually live a spiritually engaged life. We're going to have to do that at some point. And what's on the other side of it is life, is a more realized you. And so it's worth the discomfort. So it was hard. It was hard to give it, and I was good at it. I was just talented. So there was a sense of, what are you doing? What do you mean you're doing that? And I had to face all that. I had to face all the opinions of others and all that. Yeah.
I wanted to raise that because I know a lot of people, that's what everyone's at. People that come, there's the identity crisis is happening. The bigger questions: who am I? What am I going to do with myself? And Lent in. And one last question, kind of tinkering away with that then. When you did that, and because you spoke about faith right at the beginning, and did you have faith? That were you terrified, or were you like, no, I'm just going to embrace this, have faith, and just go, let the river take me in the direction it needs to?
Oh yeah, I had faith, but I also I'm a scaredy cat. I'm scared. I've been a scaredy cat my whole life. I think that to not acknowledge that is to not garner the courage. What is courage? I'm going to go forth despite the fear. That's what courage is. That means that if I'm going to be courageous, that means I'm acknowledging the fear. So that has always been there, and I let it be there, and it's supposed to be there. And what I don't understand about psychotherapy or more clinical work is that faith isn't really a thing. It's not a tool. And I don't understand how one can live a life What? Because at some point we're going to be the fool in the tarot, where we're about to jump off, and we hope that there's a net. We all at some point will do that. And that is the fool is the zero. It's not even one. It's the beginning of the tarot. And and when you see that image, it's a guy. He's got a little bit of belongings. He's about to step off a cliff, and he's got a big smile on his face. And so, and because he knows something is coming, and we all are going to face that, and that's always terrifying. To go from here to there, there's that in between place where I'm not there, and of course that's going to come up. And it's just about it only matters that you just don't give the fear. The fear can be 49%. It just can't be 51, or you won't do it. Hopefully, you're going to work on it and get it less than that. But if you're going to do it, you got to get that fear. You got to turn down the volume on that enough. And the way in which you do that is, of course, with faith. And it's a good idea to have it. It's always like, when people say I'm an atheist, and I go, how's that working out for you? Is that giving you more possibilities? That one, that helping? So.
Thank you for sharing. I am. I'm just going to wrap up the podcast. A couple of things. One is, where can people get a hold of you? Can they work with you remotely?
Yeah.
Where's the best place to send them, Jonathan?
Yeah, JonathanHammond.com, mindbodyspiritmaui.com. If you put in Maui Shaman Jonathan, it'll all come up. It's pretty easy to find me. I see people on that's primarily online. I do. If you're on the island, I'll see you in person as well. I also have it's not been announced yet, but I have a course with the Shift Network, and that's going to begin in September, and that'll live on my website when it's officially announced. We don't even have exactly a title yet, but it's around a lot of the themes that we talked about today. So you can get on my mailing list, and you'll certainly get an announcement for that as well. Beautiful.
And you're working on a new book, because you got the book The Shaman's Mind, which I do have on Audible, by the way.
Yeah, Shaman's Mind. I have a course called The Shaman Within, which is an audio course through HemiSync, which is great. Yeah, and I tend to create classes or courses and then write them down, and they become the book. So I think this Shift Network course is going to happen, and then I'll because it's so much easier to write a book when you actually have a structure that worked with people.
Of course,
and then write it down. So I think that's coming. But I moved here. I moved to Maui during COVID, and I was still working with people, but I really took time. I've been in reflective mode for the last, even since I've seen you, and I'm just now in a good way, not in a lazy way, in a truly reflective mode, and and sort of I'm coming back to start some new projects and things.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, the links will be in the show notes for everyone anyway. And last question, is there anything you want to leave the listeners to ponder on after everything we covered today?
There's two big energies on the planet right now, authoritarianism and sociopathy and narcissism and freedom. Those are the two things that are bumping up against each other. And just give the freedom your attention and your heart and your spirit. And you're doing your part.
Beautiful. Jonathan, mate, thank you so much for coming on. I love talking to you. I love your energy oozing out through the screen here, mate. It's a true joy, and I hope many people listen to this show today, and I got a lot out of it. So thank you for all you do, man. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Mahalo. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thanks, Guy.